Hello and welcome back to the September weekly Astro update. This week we're covering the 4th to the 11th of September, and I've got my very good friend Janessa joining me.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's great. And you can find Janessa at By Jove Astrology and at the Astro Garden, and don't forget the underscores when you're looking for them. And Janessa will be sharing the recordings on her channel. We've got a quick overview here for you, and if you've been watching the update, you're probably familiar with it. And this week, we're covering there from the 4th through to the 11th. So not too busy a week, but some fairly major changes this week, which we'll look at there. We've covered Mars enters Cancer last week. Of course, it happened on a Wednesday. So as we go Wednesday to Wednesday, we'll just briefly talk about it. But if you want to listen more in depth, have a listen to last week's one. And then we'll look at Mercury square Uranus and Sun opposite Saturn. And then Mercury returns home to Virgo. How do you feel about this week, Janessa?
It feels good. It's a little bit lighter astrologically, a little less busy in my life. This is when my kids are going back to school. So I love that, Mercury's going back into Virgo for that. So yeah, it's Virgo season, so it always feels a little bit busy where I live, but it feels a little bit more doable, I guess, than some of the more recent astro. So
yeah, it's nice when the Astro gives us a little bit of a break. And again, we've got the chart here which gives us the overview of the month. And if you want to look back to the first week of the month, we do a fuller look at everything that's happening. But just briefly, you can see here that Mercury moves the most this month, traveling from Leo into Virgo, which is where we are now, his first ingress into Virgo. And by the end of the month, he'll be moving on into Libra. We see Venus here. She'll be traveling through Libra, and that's where we are now. She's in the early degrees of Libra, and she will reach Scorpio by the end of the month. And we see Mars, and he's just moved into Cancer. Jupiter's staying put in Gemini, and Pluto has just moved into Capricorn. So any thoughts to add on this, Janessa?
no, I think you got it.
Yeah, that's what we've seen. So we spoke about Mars in Cancer in depth last week. When we were doing Wednesday to Wednesday, I tend to cover the Wednesday on both ones, but I'll keep that under review and see how we do. But just to remind people, we spoke about how Mars is squaring the moon, and the moon is the ruler. And we spoke about some of the issues that might come up with the moon ruling Cancer, the moon being our closest planet. So the moon can translate issues and bring them to us. So how Janessa said that we might feel it more in our bodies, be more aware of this ingress, because the moon and Mars are in contact, and therefore this might feel more personal to us. I mean, Cancer is a personal sign anyway, and it can bring up issues about the home, mothering, women's issues, women's bodies, sisters even, with the women in our lives. And it can also bring up issues about our home and nurturing and how we feel. Anything that's like a lunar issue, emotions, feelings. It's water sign, so memories as well, things that water holds, memories, intuitions can be raised. But then Mars wants to take action on things, and this is like the protective side of Mars, I think of Mars with the shield and Mars with the sword. And which side of Mars are we seeing in a sign? And in this sign, I think of him more as Mars with the shield. And we're looking at what does he fight for? Who is he protecting here? And this being a cardinal sign, and bearing in mind it's now opposite Pluto again. So there could be some shadow issues coming to the forefront. And because this is Pluto's last ingress into Capricorn, these issues are coming up for their final resolution. This is Pluto's last journey into Capricorn. So it's the last chance to get them right. So things that have gone wrong before, structures that need to dissolve but haven't, are really coming up for their last chance for Mars to take them down. I would say. What do you think, Janessa?
Yeah, I think I would agree. Yeah, one of the bigger transits of the year for sure.
The ingress carries the energy, so it's a whole sign opposition there. It's not by degree, because Pluto would need to be at 0 for that. So it's as far as away as it's possible to be. So they're distantly waving. But in traditional astrology, which we practice, if this sign, it's about the signs seeing each other. So Cancer sees Capricorn, so they've got sight by the sign, even though they're not in a degree engagement, which would be more intense. So that affects the cardinal signs. So that's Cancer and Capricorn, Aries and Libra. If you've got planets in those signs, then this transit's likely to affect you, and it's likely to be there for quite some time. It's there until April 2025. It will move into Leo and then retrograde back into Cancer. So we will see a revision, a review of these issues that do come up. Was there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that's good. I think.
Okay. So that's our review. And then we move on to Uranus squaring Mercury. Do you want to take us away with this?
Sure. So we've got Uranus in Taurus, squaring Mercury in Leo. And Mercury in Leo has just finished its retrograde. It's still in the shadow phase, heading back toward Virgo, its home sign. We've got the sun in Virgo during this time too. So it's kind of, shining a light on what's going on here. Anytime we have Mercury Uranus, I kind of think of Mercury as like the mouthpiece or like the announcer. And this being a square, which is like a very dynamic and energetic aspect, I think we could see some surprising news this day. Uranus ruling prizes and anything kind of shocking, and Mercury again, like communicating that. And also just being in Leo, which is a very loud solar sign. We could find some unexpected news this day. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Sonia?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Mercury's still combust, so it's not able to enact its significations. So you've got Uranus there as what we would call the superior planet that's able to like put its stamp on the other. So it's definitely Uranus calling the shots there. Doesn't have sight of Venus, its ruler.
No, but she is in domicile.
Yeah, and she can see Mercury.
Yeah.
So that helps a little bit. 21st of July was the last direct Mercury square Uranus. So I've got that they're both in a Mars bound. And this is Leo 3, and it's a very defensive decan. So Leo 3 is, Kira's called it defensive, Austin calls it the banner, and the Wild Way calls it strength under fire. And Uranus is in a decan that's all about preservation, prayer beads, and weathering the storm. And Mercury is still in its philosopher phase. So it's interesting that Mercury is bringing the philosophizing and Uranus is bringing awakening. So it's like, are we bringing in new philosophies here? Are we awakening, given that Uranus is retrograding in Venus's sign?
Yeah, maybe it's kind of like this awakening of like whatever was planted when they conjoined back this spring. So again, it's like that opening square. So it's kind of like the first glimpses we're getting of whatever that secret conversation was when they met.
Yeah, because you can't see it at the time. It's like a new moon when the planets conjoin. They're so joined together that their significations blend. And it's like a fresh start for us, but it's like a new moon. We describe the lunar circle as being like the planting of a seed. So it's below the earth. We can't see what's going on. We trust that it's germinating, but we don't know until it actually crowns above the earth. So this is like the crowning above the earth phase. When you can see, okay, does it have enough water? Does it have enough space around it? Did I plant too many seeds in the same place and they're too crowded? Do I need to space them out more? What sort of adjustments will it need to flourish? So yeah, we start to see what it's all about. And because Uranus is retrograde, so they would have met when it was direct. And now, well, with Mercury retrograding as well, I think this is the second time they've met in a square. So we're being given another chance to review whatever's been coming up in this. So again, this is if you've got fixed sign planets. So that's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius. So those are who's affected. Yeah, I've made a note about the shadow side of it. Can be like a nervous restlessness, an overstimulation, erratic thinking, lack of focus, some impractical ideas. Like with Uranus, sometimes you can get like a call to freedom that can be over the top, a bit too far, like when opening a bottle of pop or something and it's been shaken, and it just fizzes out everywhere. And it's that thing of don't fizz too much, stay safe. So what I usually say to people, particularly if they've got a Uranus transit, is check in with your friends and your loved ones. If you've got great ideas and you want to do something really major in your life, great. That's amazing. That's what you're supposed to be doing. That's what the astrology is asking of you. But check in with people and their reactions will tell you everything you need to know. Because if they say, that's fantastic, what took you so long? I'm so pleased for you, then you know that you're on the right track. But if they're saying, oh my God, don't do that, and if you're getting that reaction consistently from different people in different groups, then think twice, because you're probably going a little bit too far. You've probably shaken the bottle and you're fizzing out too much. So that's when a rethink might be necessary, and just take your time with that one, because that's probably a bit too much Uranus and not enough Mercury.
That's really great advice. I love that.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, sometimes you find that people just say, yeah, what took you so long? Because Uranus has woken you up to something that you couldn't see before. And you'll know that by the people who love you will be saying, yeah, because they could see it, and maybe they've been telling you and you didn't want to hear it, in which case they're your cheerleaders. So their reaction will really tell you everything you need to know. So that's the best way to keep yourself safe and to not go too far with things. Was there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think that's spot on.
We have the Sun opposite Saturn. So this is the halfway point in the cycle. That's kind of like the full moon point in the cycle when everything's illuminated. And like I said, with the Sun, it takes it a year to go around the zodiac. So this is like the 6-month point. So the conjunction was at 9 degrees of Pisces on the 28th of February. And this is about responsibility, self-discipline. The Sun will illuminate these issues for us, these Saturnian issues. And Saturn in Pisces going retrograde, it's going back over things. So it's probably issues that have come up for us before, things that we're aware of, things that we've maybe tried to work on before, or that other people have pointed out. And the Sun's really bringing our attention to it. So maybe something will happen, something that you've put off, an appointment you haven't booked or something, that suddenly then has to be done now, becomes urgent. And the Sun will ask us to be careful of our integrity and our authenticity in our actions. So anything that isn't aligned will also be brought to our attention at this time. It needs to be centered in our values and our self-consciousness, and maybe a focus on work and duty, not the fun things. This isn't a Venus transit. This is all about, what are our responsibilities and what are our duties. And the shadow side of this can be a rigid ego structure. And it can also show us where our vitality and our confidence has been inhibited, where Saturn brings limits and maybe it's been too limited. So it can show that up with us if our work or our social role isn't aligned with our true self and our needs. And also if we've been habitually denying ourselves, denying something that we need to flourish. Saturn will show that up. And I thought of an archetype, and it's a series that I was thinking of called Succession. I don't know if you've watched that, with the father, and he's playing his children off one against the other as to who's going to succeed him. And it's like Saturn as that father, but to what end? Because it's damaging the business, and the business's integrity, and it's damaging his children and their psyche. The way that rolls, I mean, it makes for great drama, and you're thinking, yeah, this is happening in real families. I mean, I know the Murdochs are one. that comes to mind, where you do see these children of powerful fathers striving to shine in their father's light, but how could they flourish themselves and be their own sun? That's what it made me think of. And it's like things like that will come to light if you're not doing you, what I think. And it might relate to ways of service because of the sun being in Virgo there. I'm thinking Saturn in Pisces. What were your thoughts, Janessa?
Yeah, I mean, I can't help but think about in Hellenistic astrology where like the sun and Saturn are opposites, right? And the sun rules Leo, Saturn rules Aquarius, and a lot of this has to do with way back in ancient times when Saturn was the furthest away planet that could be seen. So thinking about that, and yeah, I think you covered a lot of my thoughts on it, of like the sun having a lot to do with like our ego and our calling and our purpose, the plot line, and Saturn kind of being the one that brings in the boundaries or the limits to those things, that kind of humbles us or can do that. And then them being opposite here, being that tension, and like roadblock kind of energy potentially, with Saturn there. So yeah, I think it's just another way of saying exactly what you said. But yeah,
Great. And who are we looking at here? We're looking at it affecting the mutable signs again. So we've got Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, and Sagittarius. Okay. So do you want to take us away with Mercury going into Virgo?
Sure. Yeah, this feels like another breath of fresh air, I think. Mercury is entering his home sign. It's actually the sign of Mercury's exaltation as well, which is nice when we don't have a lot of planets in dignity. Of course, even the moon is in Scorpio for this chart. But it's nice. We've got Mercury at exalted. We've got Venus at home. There's a little more business as usual, maybe feeling this week with that. Like I said, my kids are going back to school that week, so I love the signature for that. It's kind of like, oh, okay, we're getting back into the swing of things. Like, what was this routine that we had, and what were we doing before, like all summer? Like, okay, we're back in school. Very like, yeah, school's back in session vibes for sure. Maybe doesn't feel that great with the moon and Scorpio, but necessary and that time of year.
Leave its shadow on the 12th of September, so that's 3 more days from when it ingresses, when it reaches 4 degrees. This is the second ingress because it entered when it was in shadow on the 15th of August. And it's interesting in Virgo because it's the only planet that has both its exaltation and its domicile here. So it's kind of lonely in that sense. It doesn't get to co-rule with anybody. Other planets get to have another exaltation ruler that it can share the burden with, but Mercury's sort of on his own here, like with doubled up responsibility. But I always find it like a really nice time to connect with Mercury if you want to work with Mercury, if you do any of that kind of work, if you ask for Mercury's help with anything. This is like a really good time because he's empowered by that fact that he's got the exaltation and domicile rulership. So you want to wait until he's out of shadow and out of under the beams. Did I make a note of when that is? So he's emerging as an evening star. So he's out now, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's in his chariot, right? And
yeah, he'll be in his chariot the whole way through. So yeah, he's empowered now, and he's still in the philosopher phase. And it's on the 20th he'll enter the 5th stage, which is the sage stage, which is when he passes his greatest elongation. So at the moment he's moving away from the sun, like a dog on a leash, going as far as he's allowed, and then he'll get his stick and come running back. Look what I found. And he springs back to the sun. So he gets as far away as he possibly can, and then he has to travel back. So he's philosophizing at the moment, and then he comes back as a sage. He's learned everything he can. He's learned from his whatever he's found on his travels, and he brings all that information back to the sun, and they meet again in Kazemi, which is really rather nice. And I really enjoyed like learning about those different phases and like how we can engage with Mercury at those different levels of those stages. So this also empowers Jupiter now,
Right.
because Mercury's empowered the square that he's got now with Jupiter. So again, the planets that are feeling it, we've got the mutable signs, which has come up a lot. So the mutable signs and the cardinal signs have been feeling most of the energy so far this month. So we've still got Mercury, Virgo, Gemini, Pisces, and Sagittarius. And in traditional astrology, we call them double-bodied, and you can almost see from the glyphs that there's like this double-bodied element, the twins. There was like a woman with a wheat sheaf was like the first, but sometimes it's the Vestal Virgin, isn't it, that gets represented. But there's like an element of doubleness, and in Sagittarius, it's like the half man, half minotaur or centaur.
Centaur, yeah.
Or the bow and arrow, but again, the double element. And Pisces is the two fish. So there's like that element of duality in all of these signs, which it brings in that mutable nature. So we might see some changes with Jupiter and Gemini issues around communications as well, and those kind of projects taking off, thoughts and ideas as well. Because Mercury's been a long time in retrograde, shadow, under the beams, revising, learning, and now suddenly he's empowered. So that can make a difference. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's like a little bit of a domino effect that's like in a good way of like, okay, so Mercury is back. It has a little more dignity and a lot more dignity, better condition. So that helps Jupiter out, which in turn helps out Saturn over in Pisces. It just feels like we can sigh a breath of a little, maybe a small breath of relief here. You know, there's a lot of other stuff still going on. We've got the Pluto in Capricorn and the eclipses kind of on the horizon. But I think it's a nice little, this week feels like a nice break maybe, or a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah.
Between some of the different events going on. So.
Yeah, for those mutable signs particularly that have like been going through it. And the fixed signs really that have struggled as well while Mercury was in Leo, and now he's moved out. So they'll feel that too. Oh, and that's it. That's all we've got for this week. It's a short week. Was there anything you'd like to say summing up that week?
No, I think that covers it. I think, yeah, it's a little bit of a pause, a time to catch our breath and reset for what's coming up.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much for joining me, Janessa. And you can find Janessa at byjoveastrology.com and the Astro Garden. And don't forget the underscores if you're trying to find her. The _astro_garden. And you can find me at Celestial Astrology. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, but if you've got any questions or anything, please do let us know in the comments and we'll be happy to help you. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining us for the weekly forecast. You often hear creators ask you, could you please like and subscribe? And I can't emphasize enough how important it is for small channels. It really does make the difference. And also we all want to reach the audience that our content is made for, and we can do this with your help. If you've enjoyed it, it gives us immediate feedback on what you're enjoying and what you would like more of. It doesn't cost you anything, and it's a great way for you to support our work and just let us know that you're enjoying what we're doing. So if you have enjoyed this content through to the end and you'd like us to keep making it and make more of it, that's a great way for you to let us know. So wherever you're watching this, please do give us a thumbs up and give us your support, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.